G2 versus CLG. And we talked about Aurelion Sol. I think when you play against Huhi, especially here early on in the group stage, you have to remove that one pick. And I actually want to see Bard being removed as well against Aframo. He's such a big playmaker on that champion.
Yeah, as far as G2's bans against CLG, no surprises really, except for maybe a little twist with the Karma. Have to say though, the flexibility there also, taking that off the board is a big thing. Jungler pool is actually getting focused a lot here, and I think Elise is very high priority at the moment.
Yeah, that's always typically when you're on the red side, which is the right-hand side of the screen. I realize CLG's logo is blue, but that's the side of the map they're actually on, is you set up these pinches. What's important to first pick, what's important to pick on the second side.
So a little bit of a throwaway ban from CLG. Not that Soraka is not a good support in the current meta, but more because Elise is now available, and G2 has to decide between Elise and picks like Syndra or Jay, some of these other champions we see here in this current meta. Elise is the first pick though, the best available jungler.
Right, we got number one now. CLG, what are they going to answer with here? I feel like especially as the meta, the bootcamp meta here for Worlds has been changing up top lane quite a lot. And top lane really heavily relies on counter picks nowadays. I almost feel even more safe first picking from mid lane and blind picking something like Syndra or Cassiopeia rather than blind picking in top lane.
Yeah, definitely agree on the Syndra blind pick specifically. Cassiopeia can actually get countered, funny enough, also by Syndra, but Syndra is one of these picks that we're going to see a lot. A lot of mid laners, they like her because she's good at all stages of the game, except for maybe 6 items, but how often do we even go 6 items in a little bit of a snowballing meta where it's a lot about standard laning?
Plus, specifically for Huhi, Syndra has been one of his most impactful champions when Aurelion Sol is banned, but it's not going to be the case.
Bullies.
Talk about standard laning, of course. You're almost guaranteed a 2-on-2. You can choose to swap, but you pay a pretty heavy gold tax by doing so. And so Counter Logic Graving grab 2 lane-dominant bottom laners here in the Caitlyn and the Nami.
But this means now for G2 that there are still a pick like Jace available, and when you have Jace with Elise, that's a very good combo, because you have then an AP jungler with an AD top laner, if Jace does go top, which we expect he will, and that early game setup is insane. So if Darshan doesn't get a safe pick up in the top lane, he can get camped early on.
It definitely is scary because Elise brings so much pressure to the early game, and Jace can play up. If Jace has control of the wave, they kills the ranged minions very quickly, then pushes up, and Elise is there. You can even dive people really early on. It definitely is a threatening opening round here from G2, and they are going to lock in that Syndra we were just talking about as well.
Yeah, CLG put a lot of focus on locking in that bottom lane so early. They wanted the 2 preferred picks for them. And honestly, I think G2 is pretty happy with that. They avoid the Bard from Aframo, which is a big playmaker in a best of 1, and they get power picks.
What they need now for CLG to answer this is some hard engage, because G2 have a lot of poke, good siege right now. They can have long range stuns and poke under turrets as well as Elise for dive. However, CLG could try and go for some hard engage, try and counter this.
It has gotten harder though to get hard engaged because Gragas obviously is out of the meta.
Very true.
Top lane meta is a lot of these squishy picks like Kennen, like Na and Rumble and Jace. Like they don't actually offer like that pure hard engage. Kennen could be a choice for just that flashing with after he TPs, but he actually loses lane to Jace.
Definitely, and we also need to touch on Jace with a couple of the changes and why he's been getting so popular. No longer has to wait around for tier to stack up. A lot of mana buzz for him, and the ramp up time just isn't there that used to be there, so much more fearsome early.
And CLG, very, very standard picks, honestly, from what we expect of this meta. Strong 2v2 bot lane with Nami as the lane bully support. Vladimir is one of the picks against Syndra. It's not because Vladimir wins the lane, but he can farm against her as long as she doesn't get a blue buff early.
Exactly. It looks to me like CLG are going with their MSI style, where they want to team fight around Stixxay. They did this a lot at MSI, where they put Darshan on Poppy, didn't count on him to win lane, or pressure much early, but he made big plays when it came to team fighting, and it looks like CLG may be focusing on trying to team fight around Stixxay.
Definitely so, and there are still quite some jungle picks available as well as a last rotation if you want like a Kindred to maybe protect the Caitlyn even more with an ulti. Graves also is available. We know it's been played a lot in solo queue by a lot of these junglers.
Yeah, so it's going to be up to G2 to lock in their final champion. We have the whole lineup here for G2. A lot of long-range champions. Cocoon, you've got Braum to keep the shield to make sure the poke champions are good, but Jason and Jhin especially, very long-range champions. They want to get the damage from pretty much off the map, and CLG don't really have a lot of engage tools to break those sieges up. Yeah,
really nicely curving out their strength there, G2. When the first 3 champions showed, we talked about the poke. They rounded out with more with Jhin and then Braum. So good with these comps. Able to push up and save minion waves as well when they go for the siege. is going to be on CLG to also dodge a lot of skill shots here.
Yeah, it really is only Poppy who can start a fight on CLG's side, tiled away from Nami. That's not a hard engage tool because it's so slow when it comes in. And Braum also, as Freak is pointing here on the screen to help me, can also just block it straight away. So it is really, really difficult for CLG to start a fight easily. They do want something that can dive the backline though.
Okay, Olaf picked up as a champion, try to assault the Syndra, assault the Jace, assault the Jhin, and he's unstoppable during that ultimate, so you might see him get in there.
Olaf, no surprise here. It's been very popular in North America. Plus, we remember Reignover has been boot camping with CLG in Korea. He was one of the first ones to bring that Olaf popularity over to North America. This is a very, very strong champion for the early game. A lot of the North American junglers love the fast clear into early ganks, spamming your ghost cooldown, just constantly clearing out camps and getting off a lot of ganks. The early game is really where he shines, so
yeah.
He falls off later.
And he needs to really, really do something in the early game because G2 has very strong solo lanes here in Syndra and Jace against the Poppy and Vladimir, and Elise who can also gank so effectively early on. So G2 will definitely look to snowball the top side of the map, and then bottom lane, well, they have to survive. They might get one gank just to relieve some pressure. Otherwise, they're on their own, and they just need to make sure they don't fall too far behind.
It's a good thing also for CLG that Olaf has 2 dive partners in the Vladimir and Poppy, because if you're running Olaf into that much firepower, oftentimes when you're running up, even with Ghost on, you can get shot down before you
attack him, kill him off. I mean, if he turns unstoppable, he actually loses a lot of those defensive stats and becomes easier to kill off. So guys, we are getting ready for our first game of the 2016 World Championship. So tell us who's gonna take the first game of the tournament. Tweet up hashtag G2 win or hashtag CLG win if your votes are behind Europe or North America respectively as the teams load up onto the Rift. Of course, we have a North American crowd here, and you can hear who they're voting for.
Oh, sorry, that's what I heard.
That is unlike here in
is.
San Francisco, but we are now loading onto the Rift for Game 1 of the 2016 League of Legends World Championship.
Both teams with jerseys representing their nation's colors as well. G2 with the recent European Union jerseys, and America, once again, CLG bringing back those from MSI. Let's take a look here at the opening, though. Everybody fanning out for defensive vision.
Well, CLG is looking to at least pluck a ward in on the red buff, it looks like, from Aframo here, just to see if they can spot an early start. One thing you guys need to know, when you have a top laner like Jace, you very often want to gank for him early. So if you can start on bottom side as an Elise and just path all the way up to top side, you can set up some very, very effective ganks. CLG didn't get any wards down, however.
Yeah, Elise definitely potent level 3 ganks. Olaf, however, can pull off one of the quickest level 3 ganks, especially red side Olaf has a extremely fast gank up to the top side. Blue, wolves, red can get there and surprise a lot of people, especially if on the Jace, you know, you're trying to bully early, trying to move up in the lane. If Expect plays forward, might be able to get there first, but we'll see if the race does pay off, because it looks like Elise starting topside, you know, has that possibility of just doing 3 topside camps going up there with only blue.
Definitely an option. Otherwise, you just do, you know, your Grump, your Wolves, you do your red buff, and then you can path topside. But zoom out, bigger picture. 2 teams, Freak, taking on each other. You said it before here in the intro. These 2 teams, they're technically fighting for what we expect to be the 2nd place because they're Brock's Tigers. So it's such an important match now.
It really is. Of course, they will face each other again next week. In the group stage, you play each other team in your group twice. This will be the first match, and it will definitely set the tone for what these 2 teams are doing. As we look kind of at the matchups overall, of course, you expect this matchup to go well for Counter Logic Gaming. The Thunderlords, the Nami adding some extra damage as he pokes down, gets Mithy to half and everything like that. Otherwise, though, both junglers have been kind of unspotted throughout their various starts.
Yeah, one thing coming into this match with researching the stats over the regular season for both these teams, Trick actually had one of the lowest jungle proximities and very low counter jungling numbers as well, whereas there was a very recent rise for Smithy as far as that presence is concerned. And Trick has done the full clear of the blue side. He's not going to go for one of the early ganks, though. Just continuing to clear out the red quadrant of the jungle for him.
Yeah, it does mean Expect is playing a little bit safe up in the top lane, not going all in to harass the Poppy in case enemy Olaf shows up, because when you have strong solo laners, the worst that can happen is the enemy jungler pulls off an early gank.
And especially Expect is not really someone that we would I'm trying to think of a different word besides expect, but expect to be,
Sure.
you know, playing up in the lane and playing aggressively, trying to dominate in a 1-versus-1 situation.
You'd anticipate that kind of based
you
on
go.
how the matchup is going. I got you. Got your back. Next time around, you're going to say anticipate for the man. But yeah, this is so far a fairly sort of neutral game so far. Of course, we are very early on into it. You expect the lanes that are winning are actually doing that right now. CLG, yep, up pretty sizably. They're pushing G2 under their turrets. And the thing is, based on the jungle pass we've had, again, I want to point out the fact that Xmithy, I think, kind of hid his jungle start, right? You expect he either gets leashed by his top laner, by the Poppy, or leashed by the Caitlyn and the Nami, but Caitlyn and Nami showed up early to lane, which makes you assume, oh, okay, Darshan leashed from the top side. You expect Olaf to work down towards the bottom side of the map. That didn't happen. Xmithy actually started on his own blue buff with no leash. He will end up top side as Trick is on the bottom. There'll be mismatch, and you might see some very significant 2v1s or 3v2s because of this.
Now, I'm glad we talk about Xmithy because I feel like coming into this World Championship, he's one of the most exciting players to look at on this CLG lineup, just because he's always been, it's always the joke about being underrated and so on. People don't really expect too much from him.
Dandy Light.
I feel like Dandy Light. I feel like this whole, he's underrated is kind of gone now. I think a lot of people actually respect him a lot as a jungler. He's shown up multiple times at the big international events, and he's the kind of guy you're looking at in a standard lane meta to really have a massive impact in the early game, because we know CLG doesn't have the strongest solo laners, on paper at least. If Xmithy is able to help them early on, even out-jungle the enemy jungler, well then suddenly CLG might actually have a strong early game, and we know they have good late game shot calling, which they can then very easily transition towards.
Right, and since we are on jungles and we have some more time, let's just delve a little bit deeper into why Olaf is so good in the early game.
You love that Olaf?
I do. One of the reasons I love him so much is because I'm a very stingy jungler, and I like to use scaling yellow runes at all times if I can pull it off, rather than the flat armor, which keeps you more healthy. Olaf actually does not care about getting low early in the jungle because of his passive, giving more attack speed. Exactly. Increases his clear time. Plus, he never has to worry about actually dying. The lifesteal that he can get from W. The other thing is that starting blue, having blue buff is incredibly important for Olaf. It really increases your clear speed when you can continually spam out your undertow, the axes for him. And that's part of the reason why he's actually one of, if not the fastest clearing early game junglers.
So to take you guys out of the game real quick, because of course we do have the game paused. It was Stixay and then Afro who had some audio issues. They resumed the game to test, make sure audio was working. Sadly, it seems to not be the case right now, so we are still triaging for Afro. We expect it to be a fairly short pause. Hopefully that is the case here early on in this game with, of course, again, not a whole lot of action that has happened so far.
No, I mean, we're only 2 minutes and 49 seconds into it, so we're like, come on, fight, what's going on here?
Of course.
But obviously, yeah, junglers can look to gank very soon. Laners get the wards down. Expect doesn't have a ward topside, same for Darshan, but again, nothing has really happened. So it's just going to be interesting to see how the early game pans out, because from when we talk to players, they keep talking about how this meta, once you start falling behind, it is really difficult to get back into the game, because it's very easy to get, like, if you towers down, a big goal advantage, then you get deep vision on a certain area, and then you just take over, like, that complete side of the map, and you can start, like, stacking up dragons, get an early Baron, so on, so on. So it's super, super important with the early game, and that's why we talk so much about the junglers, because they, of course, impact the early game so much, and if one guy gets ahead of the other one, he can pull his team with him. 100%
agree. There's a big factor contributing to that recent trend is that we've just added more objectives into the game, right?
Sure.
There are just more important objectives now, especially with first gold on turret. Basically just coming out of nowhere, right? That's a whole bunch of extra gold that was not available before, and that also puts more importance on lane dominance, right? The laning phase for all the different lanes really does play into where that jungler is going to path, because a jungler dominating game doesn't have to look like a jungler going and getting ganks off and then leaving. It can turn into jungler going bottom lane in a winning lane and pushing down a turret.
Exactly, and then you take turret, you take an Infernal Drake or Cloud Drake, depending on which region you're from, then you're super happy, of course. But with CLG in this situation and their picks, we also get to see some of the newer ones people maybe didn't expect, like Nami coming back in. But funny enough, we're back to MSI, where it was the range supports like Nami who was played, because she's so good in the laning phase specifically, especially in the early levels. When you play Nami, though, you have to be careful. You're very squishy. Later on, if you miss that bubble, Braum jumps you, enemy jungler jumps you, and you die very, very quickly.
Definitely true. Bottom lane for CLG, the one pushing up, they have to be a little bit more careful. Top lane is starting to actually push away from expect as well.
And here we go. We are back into the game, and this time around, it hasn't been paused again, so we might just be back into the action here as Counterlogic Gaming once again is taking on G2 eSports North America versus Europe. Xmithy actually pathing back down to the bottom of his jungle.
A long route down.
It is a very curious path. Definitely, you talked about throwing off the enemy's timings, Freak, though. They would have no idea he's on that side.
I assume he's attempting to find Trick and just gets a Scuttle Crab for his efforts.
Yeah, early Scuttle Crab control is extremely important as far as the vision control that we've talked about snowballing.
Yeah, and I definitely like it when you have a pushing bot lane. Just get a little bit extra vision in the river. They can just ward the enemy try push, and then you kind of have full information of where the enemy jungler can come from. Elise obviously can't really path any other ways. But top lane now, as we talked about, expect finally got to push in. Trick is showing up, and this combo can actually dive very effectively. It is very early in the game, but Darshan is down to 50%.
Yep, this is definitely scary for him. He does have his summoners available, so Flash is ready, but I don't know if that's going to save. Oh, no!
He went to go ward. Trick spots him down to 100 HP, and Darshan gets sniped! Expect draws first blood at the World Championship!
And that was almost too easy for G2. We were expecting the big dive to happen. Maybe one member would drop too low and a potential counter gank, but nope. Darshan walked into ward too late to see if the enemy jungler showed up, and Trick was already there.
We talked about it in Champion Select, the dive potential of a pushing
ganking top lane.
and Elise. And man, G2 jump out to a big lead there. That is going to take some wind out of the sails for North America.
I see that again here. So Darshan does have his ward available, but he doesn't have anything put down, and he wants to go in a ward now. Trick is here maybe a few seconds earlier than he expected.
Yeah, I mean, anytime, that's what we talked about, you know, the importance of lane dominance. And when lanes are pushing in, you have to actually make a move a couple seconds earlier. Here we go, though. This is a reactive move from Smithy. And because it's reactive, walking over vision probably won't get much out of it.
Yeah, it looks like Expect is playing far enough back. He's already taken his first recall and TP'd back into the lane. Right, and now you have Trick joining in as well. Smithy says, nope, we can't do that. Recalls in a brush. G2 don't know that he's not still waiting, but it's another 2v1 against Darshan.
Yeah,
He does have Flash.
This is the situation where you tell your top laners to play stupid and just go all in, just like walk into minions, play aggressive. In case enemy jungler was still there, he would have gone for the gank, and then he could have counter-ganked it. Now, they might just get a bit of poke on Darshan. He still has Flash.
Yeah, I love that dangerous game, right? Because you have to be careful with how stupid, quote-unquote, you play.
Run forward.
You lose half of your life to it. Definitely can bite you in the backside, but both junglers end up recalling after that non-action.
Look at the other lanes in this situation here. We have mid lane. We talked about Vladimir can farm even versus the Syndra, unless Syndra gets her lost chapter and then also a blue buff. She can just perma-push, perma-harass. She has one of them now. She needs the blue buff when it spawns, but Trick was a greedy jungler, took it for himself instead of giving him to his mid lane. Like
You mean a smart jungler?
A smart jungler, of course.
One other thing that's pretty curious is the early Moby boots for Trick. It is a risky buy. It's definitely a snowballing buy. We've seen people be punished for it, as you don't have those combat stats, but definitely allows him to put a lot more pressure on the map and try and snowball.
Has a chance to be rewarded for it. Spots Smithy dancing back and forth. Axe tags him, turns off the bonus move speed, and they go back to their respective sides of the map. Both junglers being spotted now. We just have a chill game for now.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the boots on the other side for Smithy, that is the go-to boots for Olaf. We talked about the low cooldown of the Ghost Summoner spell for pulling off ganks. Want to try and abuse that as much as possible. Plus, flat cooldown reduction helps out with the undertow damage.
Forcing the flash out of Expect. Nice done by Darshan, but here comes a counter gank. Trick walking through a ward, doing it, and Darshan knows he's safe.
And that was definitely not good enough here from Expect. He was out of mana. You can see his build. He's not going for tier. He's going for a build we see more and more from Jace, where you just rush Ghostblade, and you have an insane power spike very early. So he's not stacking any mana regen just now. Jumping in for Stixxay.
Good damage, gets a tag onto Afro. One more hit will stun him, but they're going to land the root. One more auto. Can't quite get in range. Vent won't get it. CLG actually does win that trade, as Afro has plenty of mana to heal back up.
Yeah, now we actually have an opening for CLG in the top lane because there is no flash from Expect. He walked in to hit that tower, as we said earlier, without mana and didn't really accomplish anything. It was just a greedy play, and now we can see this Olaf go to top lane and actually try and gank the Jace. He's very easy to gank as an Olaf with his ulti.
Yeah, you can't knock him back, pop up the ulti. The best that Jace can hope for is to try and jump to an enemy minion that's closer to his turret or something. But aside from that, will drop pretty quickly.
Counterlogic Gaming going to go ahead and recall their dual lane. Nicely played by Mithy. He will build a freeze for a while, actually. You had Sven recall quite a bit earlier, just kind of by himself. Got his own bit of armor penetration. CLG backs up for a BF sword on their AD carry, plus their Sightstone. It does mean Mithy will have to recall late, and there will be some 2v1 time. Very briefly for CLG in the dual lane.
Luckily for G2, though, the wave is actually pushed so far towards the G2 tower that you're not really at risk of getting zoned for minions or anything. You can just sit in farm.
And as those teleports for top laners do come back up, this first Ocean Drake definitely becomes a real possibility, especially if the bottom lane does gain control and continues pushing like that. So we'll see if CLG put down some wards in preparation for that.
This is smart by CLG, though. They're standing in the spots that G2 would go to ward, but they haven't been seen yet.
Ooh, they might find Mythy when he passed down to the bottom lane, or potentially just dive onto the Jhin. Jhin is all alone here.
Here comes the slow from Afro. He pulls the aggro. Nothing for him to do. He can't do anything. Saves the summoners.
But G2
a
is
great
coming.
clean kill by G2. Here comes Trick. Here comes Smithy. Here comes Perks. Huhi on the backside. The flash chase in. Huhi wants in. Here's the tidal wave as well. The flash does get him out of range. Huhi's still staying alive. Here's the TP, and Darshan gets him. Smithy the second kill for Counter Logic Gaming.
Darshan right over the wall. They do use that TP we're talking about just as it comes off cooldown. That means, though,
Not over yet, guys.
use his, and
This is a 4 versus 2. Here's the teleport for Expect. They're still putting the damage of Darshan getting low. He might die to the turret. Run more hit, but they've still picked up Trick. This might come back in after a little bit overextended. One more hit, I'll do it. Mythy get the kill. He's trying to save it for Expect, but Summoner Heal saves his life. Afro gets out. CLG still stays up a kill with the play.
Afro just managed to stay alive in the end, but good setup from CLG with the trap first and then an early teleport from Darshan here, catching G2 off guard. Expect joined very, very late.
Yeah, a bit of adrenaline joining there as well, as we saw a couple of little bit of a misplay. Here we go, though. Here's the original dive. They corner Sven under the turret. Sven, he resigns himself to death. He knows he's not going to get out of this, so he doesn't burn any summoner spells.
But it's such a good setup because they saw he was freezing the bottom lane and they expected the support to roam so they could go for either dive or a catch. Then onto Perks here. Darshan is already TP'd. He flashes over the wall. Look at your minimap, guys. Jace is still sitting top lane. Expect he was not ready to TP.
It was actually so good for Darshan. He flashes up to the range where he can charge over the wall. That's actually really hard to do, too, because the range on that charge did get reduced. And that's why it was such an impressive play there. They were able to get the kill, even though the tidal wave ended right before hitting Perks.
Well, it is very, very hard to use Tidal Wave here as somewhat of an engaged tool. It's very, very slow, of course, moving around. The fans voting for CLG for now.
Deficio tenting his fingers like the evil mastermind he is.
No, we talked about this coming in, like CLG definitely have a good shot at winning this game, honestly. We know how well they prepare for these games. We didn't see anything surprising, I feel, in terms of picks. If they had something really special prepared, like Aurelion Soul of MSI, we didn't see it this time around at least. Very, very standard picks, but a good move with Smithy, of course, diving on to Sven.
And the thing is, we didn't see a Drake after that. There was no move over to Ocean Drake because of the delayed teleport from Expect. Actually, mid lane here, we have some exchanging going on.
Yeah, bit of damage onto Perks, He puts the slowdown. Here comes the axes, and Smithy's trying to take him out. He's gonna get it. He survives the entire encounter. A quick repel up for Trick, and they will not dive this just yet, but Afro has now joined the team, and it looks like CLG are wanting to push down the mid lane, and a red buff Olaf means plenty of damage on his structures as Mythy joins in to defend, but CLG dropping it below half.
First turret is way more important than moving over to that Ocean Drake. So much gold there, plus you remove it as an objective for the other team. That's why they're bringing everyone up here to try and capitalize on that play. They really want to turn this into that first turret gold.
It is hard for him to take it down. Expect is on his way. Mythy as well sitting here defending.
It's going to be a bit of a 4v4 though. Expect is joining. Sven's still down there on the bot side right now. CLG re-engaging on this one. The ult from Mythy doesn't mean enough, and now he's missing an important cooldown for the fight. He's going to die into his turret. The turret going down as well. Expect now caught by himself. Catastrophic mistakes from G2 as they will continue to move forward their members. A trade kill comes in, but still a rough early game now as CLG are up double the kills and a turret.
Yeah, everything is falling apart here for G2. It starts with Perks in the mid lane having no flash, and the jungler we talked about earlier, Smithy showing up big time. 3-0-3 on this Olaf. He charges into the mid lane, picks up another kill, and then G2 tries too hard to defend this mid tower, lose it, and lose more kills.
CLG, no matter how the meta changes, they always retain their hyper focus on those early objectives. There it showed. They are willing to commit their whole team for this first turret gold, and G2 were not. They still had Jhin down bottom lane, and it was a bit of a desperate move to try and defend this turret here. As you see, Mythy used his ultimate just on the minion.
Yeah, especially after the ulti is now gone from Mythy. Well, that was the best you can do. Now just back away because you have no cooldowns left. Expect also just seem to forget that Darshan could walk in behind him. Gank down bottom lane.
Looking for the play right now. Curtain call is up. Stixxay takes a couple. After gonna block this as well. This should not kill him, and it won't. He'll survive with 300 HP. That's the ulti down for Sven, but it does mean lane control for G2. Their jungler's there. Most of the CLG bot lane has to recall away, and this will at least be a wave pushed in.
Yeah, while G2 have done fine in the laning phase, it's as soon as CLG are forcing these fights very, very early, moving Xmithy around, TPing down to Sean, then it seems like CLG is just reacting much faster. And G2 suddenly has to react on the fly. They come in one by one, a little bit too late. Perks in that mid lane as well. You had zero vision in the river. You had no flash either versus an Olaf. Why are you trying to fight in the first place? And that's just really well played by CLG and great shot calling. Seeing these mistakes from G2 and punishing them.
Yep, CLG been working together so long with this as their focus. Does pay off here, although it's still a very, very small gold lead and just the one Ocean Drake. Actually, down bottom, this looks like a pretty interesting bush setup.
Sven gets slowed down. He's got nothing to do. Flashes up, and he's going to use it, but Smithy's got another axe. Nice dodge in the bubble, and actually well played by Sven. Gets away from the gank, even puts some punishment back onto Xmithy for his troubles. However, it still means it's a 3v0 at this bottom lane outer turret, and Counter Logic Gaming look to extend their gold lead. Sven not really in engaged range, and as the minion wave is cleared out, CLG ups the gold lead to 2,500.
It's exactly what CLG were looking for. That bot lane tower killing Sven would have been a bonus, but didn't happen due to also the swiftness boots here, making it easier to dodge around as a Jhin.
Meanwhile, we actually have the rest of the team being called down. They've started to bolster this area with vision as well. Pink wards being dropped by CLG. After the mid and top turret go down, opens up the red quadrant of the jungle to a lot of plays. But here we go, Mithy's going aggressive.
Flash Q's gonna land. They really want Stixxay. The CC's going to land. Bad news bears for Stixxay. It's going down. The cocoon lands the damage output, and he's gonna die to Spiderlings. Trick finds one, but here's the teleport in. It's Darshan. He wants Smithy. One more hit, he'll do it, and that's Smithy getting himself a kill. Now the chase and the Trick has to dodge around the tidal wave and will be killed. A double kill for CLG's jungler.
These Moby boots on Elise not helping him at all. He is getting squashed now under the foot of Olaf, and CLG strike back, avenging Stixxay.
And once again, CLG just TPing down so quickly, while G2, they keep sitting in the top lane. They made the call, he should go for tower, but after G2 picked up the first kill, they overstayed. And suddenly, this Olaf, he will not let you escape, and he just keeps chasing. 5 kills now for Xmithy. He's carrying this game.
Deficio, you talked about the nerves for a game like first group stages at Worlds here for G2, and it looks like they're having some trouble staying coordinated as we move through to this mid-game. And CLG are forcing plays. G2, their reactions seem very scattered at the moment.
Definitely so. Some communication problems for G2. Too many things happening at once. Maybe where CLG, as we said earlier, just seems like a step ahead of G2 when it comes to actually calling what's supposed to happen. This is the first kill they pick up. Right now, they see the TP so early from Darshan here. They call, expect you to just stay top lane. But because Stixxay stayed alive long enough, it actually bought enough time for the Poppy and the Olaf to come in here and get onto these 2 carries here from G2.
Very good.
Supports. Let's make it support.
Very good undertows from Smithy, by the way. People don't really notice mechanics on Olaf because all they see is the giant red Viking charging at people. But the undertow, the axes, is actually really increases your DPS if you can control it well. He got multiple axes through 2 people. Plus, if you cast it short, you can pick it up a lot quicker. Then you get to throw the next one, and you get to chain them, plus keeping the extra slows on.
You even had great sort of reservation by Afro. He held onto the tidal wave until they could re-engage, until Xmithy was ready, Huhi coming down, aimed it so that Trick had to basically walk away from his own base to dodge tidal wave, which let Xmithy get a lot more attacks onto him, and overall, CLG played that fight incredibly well. Xmithy now pressuring the top side. Both teams have sent their dual lanes to this side of the map now. They're playing more around Rift Herald and these turrets, as CLG have already taken down the mid lane and bottom lane turrets.
And it's crazy to think that just like 10, 12 minutes ago, Jace picks up first blood. He's 20 CS ahead. It's like, oh, Jace is gonna snowball. Well, ever since that play happened, CLG has made plays on the other side of the map, and they kept putting the Poppy there with teleport to join the team fights and not sit in the 1v1 lane. So yes, Darshan is down in CS, but he's picked up enough kills and assists now to actually be pretty strong.
Plus, on the top side, Darshan kept wards, and they were able to see Trick's movement. Even though Trick went for the Moby boots and he was moving quickly, they knew where he was and what play he was going for. Able to counter it. Here's Darshan trying to continue the 1v1.
He's coming up. It's going to be a 2v1. Here's the ghost in from Vladimir. The flash. Oh, he can't look at the tackle. Expect smartly flashes before that play was going to commit a trade of summoners.
Meanwhile, on the top side, Smithy going to steal away this blue. Mentioned how important that is for Olaf. It increases the damage tremendously, and Smithy, this is the most damage he's dealt to champions over the entire year. Pre-15 minutes.
I like how you phrased it. Pre-15 minutes.
But yeah,
The impact there.
But statistically, it's Smithy's best early game of his year, and this is the reason that Counter Logic Gaming is winning. Trick has been in the right place several times. There have been some good laning phase matches for G2, but Smithy is putting CLG on his back. He's clearing the wards away, and even just this, just showing up is enough to say, oh, you're right, Olaf's here, let's give him the turret.
I mean, look at the minimap right now. CLG are pushing out multiple lanes at the same time. Mid is pushed in, bot lane is pushed in as well with 2 towers down already. Perkz is just stuck in the mid lane. Both of the guys, both him and who he actually used Ghost before to try and get down to bottom lane, didn't really get any sort of reward from it, but they're now down 1 summoner. It is definitely worse for Perkz because he's just sitting back at a tier 2 tower and he's not able to move.
And I think at this point, CLG, after they clean up the last turret here and they've got their 3 turret advantage, the wards are starting to move in. You see the pink wards even encroaching in G2 territory. This makes the Drake control extremely easy for them. So this Cloud Drake should be picked up fairly quickly for CLG, and it is very dangerous for G2 to go face check this, as they don't have anyone tanky. They don't have a big body to go face check into Fog of War. It's very hard to come back in Vision Wars like this. Now, you know, maybe it is a repel steal here from Trick, but it's very risky.
That's a good move right there. Now he's not in repel range of the Drake anymore. He can't get into without boarding Flash. A nice start with the Shock Blast, but CLG now own the Ocean and the Cloud Drakes. And those are the 2 big sort of rotation Drakes. They keep your health and mana topped off. They get you to the new lane faster, and this is already CLG's playstyle. It's accentuating what CLG are already doing to beat G2.
Yeah, and I really like when I see teams do what CLG is doing in this game here, where it's not about individual players specifically, like stepping up and just outplaying everyone else. No, it's as a team. They're like, okay, we're losing top side. How do we win somewhere? We have a strong bot lane. We have a strong early game jungler. Forced place on the bottom side. TP Deshaun down early to join these fights here. And then as a team, we can beat G2.
And that's the focus that CLG put on in the offseason. They rebuilt their entire team around that philosophy. That is all about the teamwork. Has paid off for them. Paid off for them at MSI. And we talked about a very similar looking strategy here for them. So far it is. It's still fairly early in the game, you know, and there are possibilities of getting picked off. Those possibilities are quickly dwindling, though.
Yeah, and we're in the mid game now, where normally you would look at CLG's comp and say, ooh, not the strongest mid game composition. Vladimir wants to scale, of course. Caitlyn wants to scale. See if actually anything happens. Sven is trying to run away. Here's Hui.
Goes, he proto belts in, looks for a bit of damage on a Mithy, and will not quite get stunned. He's going to walk away from that. Nice dodge as well. No root either. Mithy low. Trick. Ooh, goes to the flash play. Does not catch Stixxay. Hui takes a bit of damage himself. The jungler's getting a little bit lower, but the re-engage towards Stixxay. He's going to take the bullets up, and they will do so. The re-engage now back towards Mithy and Trick. Darshan teleports in. There's the repel to stay alive so far. Elise will stay alive, but getting lower and lower over time. Bubble not quite get a land from Afro move. CLG lose a lot of health, but they keep all 5 members alive. Re-engaging now towards this turret. They have a healer, but it's not going to be enough.
Yeah, they should. Uh-oh, here we go. Looks like it's just going to be an escape here. G2 are going to be able to defend.
Yes, pool. Don't worry. It's okay. He's baiting.
He's a blood bait.
Please jump me, please.
And the thing is, though, CLG, I think, win in this trade a lot of ways because they'll continue to regenerate after this fight ends. They got low, but it doesn't really matter. Their minion waves are all pressed up. G2, even if they dealt more damage, will not get map control out of this.
And that's always the beautiful thing about pushing your waves first before you make plays, because then even if you don't gain anything, or maybe you lose 1 member, there's really nothing the enemy team can do, because they then have to push all the minions all the way up to your turrets. It gives you a lot of time to respawn and get back out on the map. So CLG with a great setup, not really taking any chances, and it was G2 who used tons of flashes in that last fight.
CLG's team fight is just so much stronger right now. G2 have not been able to get the leads in all their damage carries, right? We talked about, yeah, Olaf sometimes, if he's charging at a full damage team, can get shot down. But if the full damage team is this much behind, they're not going to be able to take down the front line of CLG. And it makes it pretty simple for CLG the next few steps as far as ending it out around those normal objectives, chasing people down.
Yeah, that was the point I wanted to make before we had the little fight. You know, with CLG having Vladimir and Caitlyn, 2 picks where you can normally say, okay, they got to get past the mid game, get to 2 or 3 items at least. Well, in this case here, because CLG won the early game, got all these early towers down, these carries here, they're already pretty fed, they're already towards the late game build, and they don't really suffer that problem in the mid game anymore. Because Syndra, Jhin, and Jace all picks that really shine with 1 or 2 items. don't have that advantage anymore because CLG has so much gold.
And you can already start to see CLG feeling so comfortable that Stixxay is deviating to a more defensive build on Caitlyn. Usually you see Caitlyn rush to those 3-item power point, right? But he's already going for magic resistance because he doesn't want to get killed by the Elise Syndra combo.
And you can see now another engage comes through. Smithy getting rooted up, but so far so good. And talk about Aphromoo looking to help the team make a play. Aphromoo up about 700 gold over Mythy means he's already got the Aegis of the Legion done, so that magic just aura as well, helping to make sure Perkz doesn't assassinate somebody with that ultimate. But G2 able to use the lane dominance of Expect, who is 3-1. If it's going to be a carry performance, it'll probably be that G2 top laner. Gets the solo kill on the turret, pushing Darshan out of lane. He got a bit of help from Trick a little while ago, but you're seeing G2 edge back into this game.
Yeah, that is the one advantage G2 still has in this game here. It's the bottom lane, or well, wherever you sent the top laner, basically. He was in bottom lane just before, in the 1v1 with the armor penetration, the Black Cleaver against the full tank Puppey. Baron, though, is the call for CLG. They're starting it. G2 is on the way.
They do plenty of damage, though, and you've already got Darshan here to play zoning duty. He's going to walk into the support and say, hey, Mythy, look at me, stun me, do your stuff.
Knocked him away.
Yeah, ulti charged up, and he's not going to get rid of Elise, so Trick is still around. CLG choose to keep DPS on. Darshan just tanking damage. 2,000 health left on Baron. Title divides more time. They should get Baron, and it will go to Counter Logic Gaming. Now for the re-engage. He looked for someone else, but can't find the damage. Glacial Pitcher comes out to disengage. Nothing picked up except the bot lane tier 2 turret.
It's just too dangerous for G2 to face check this fog of war against the team. There are traps lined up. Poppy is ejecting people, and Vladimir is zoning. Very good job there by CLG to stick to the Baron and not give up, try and chase people down. So Baron is going to really amplify their push. Caitlyn with the Baron, very easy siege.
This is something we don't do very often, is actually really praise teams when they set up well around the Baron and execute it, because it's so often like, oh, they lost to that Baron, 50-50, whatever. This situation here, CLG had, honestly had the perfect setup.
Yeah.
They had a great zoning from Puppey, tidal away from Nami, they had full vision. They never really gave G2 a chance to steal the Baron.
And to talk about the severity of that, so rarely do you see 10 players alive clean Baron take. That is rare in professional League of Legends. CLG executing it nicely, but Expect was able to take 2 turrets while that all happens. The gold remains close-ish.
Yeah, in order to really put yourselves in the shoes of G2 there, you kind of need to turn on that fog of war and think about all the different traps that you're running into to try and get there. Very, very scary maneuver, and CLG do come out with the objective.
Wow, Stixxay going very defensively. I thought it was Hextrigger, but it's actually going towards the Mercurial Scimitar. The Quicksilver Sash into the lifesteal that comes out of it. That is Mercurial Scimitar. I'm silly, but
It is.
yeah, I was thinking Bob Mortius in my head, and I just like completely blanked on that.
Thank you, AD Carry main.
Yeah, I know. I just haven't had to buy Magic Resist in a while, and I just forgot how it worked. But here we go. He running back and forth. Of course, a little bit quicker thanks to the Cloud Drake. Hit up a bit. Losing 500 HP. Doesn't seem to care.
And you got 3 big tanks on CLG now. Poppy, Vladimir, and Olaf. Really, really difficult for a Jhin and a Syndra to kill these tanks. Normally, they're very good at killing squishies, flat armor penetration, flat magic penetration on both these champions. Well, right now, you have to kill a massive front line first.
Yeah, this is a giant steamroller comp here from CLG, and they really want to use the Baron buff to get the turrets. That's why they're not taking this Mountain Drake right now, trying to get the turret gold first.
That's going to be mid lane tier 2 down. So there's only 1 tier 2 turret left, and CLG gets that first 6 turrets right now. They're definitely sizably ahead right there. Over 4,000 gold now, once again stretching that lead as they shove their waves in. Mythy fighting for vision control in his own jungle just outside of his base. That's how choked off G2 are right now.
Only a good thing as a supporter when you ward there is how quickly you get back to fountain, get more wards, go back and place the same ones, because the enemy will just clear them.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you are G2, you're actually not even looking for late game, because we have Caitlyn, Vladimir again, and Poppy as well on the side of CLG, like insane late game Caitlyn. This needs to be a massive outplay for G2 in a team fight to win this game.
Exactly. What you're looking for are mistakes, unforced errors, openings for you to capitalize on, right? And those can occur around turrets where you have the extra damage to assist you from your turrets, but
okay.
Mythy blocks up the shot, so Sigma doesn't get rooted up, but the turret's still under siege. Sadly for them, though, a Baroned up cannon minion is actually outside of turret range, so it doesn't full aggro, and that will eventually clear away. 2/3 health.
yeah, they don't really want to take any chances here, so CLG backing off out of vision. They're coming down with the minion wave. You can boost up the speed of the minion wave with that Baron buff as well. So it's kind of a surprise siege right there. They return to the scene of crime, take down the last turret, and then they can rotate and grab the Drake as well.
That is 6,000 gold up for Counter Logic Gaming. He was splitting in the bot lane and even got the inhib turret down below half as well. It's one last easy recall as Baron buff times out for CLG. They earned 3,500 gold off of that Baron, and they can now take that clean Mountain Drake as they look for the seeds that might win them the game.
If you are G2 at this point, you start talking about, you know, what's our biggest item power spike we can possibly get to before we have to take that fight. Well, for most of these guys, it might be like one more item, guys. Get a third item down, and then we just go for that one fight. If we don't win it, we lost the game. Because the scaling in on CLG is great. They're going to get stronger and stronger. GA completed Onyx Smithy here. G2 needs to just try and fight, honestly, with, let's look at the next, 5 minutes? Otherwise, it's not going to get any easier. Once we have full GAs, full defensive items on CLG, then you're never going to kill them.
This is why, by this point, this is where you start to expect to see some risky plays from G2, right? Because they need to take any opportunity that's given to them. If there's somebody slightly out of position, you kind of have to throw everything that you have on that possibility of making that play and trying to turn that into some extra gold. Because there are quite a few extra standing towers here for CLG since G2 have only taken 3 total.
Yeah, but that's the difficulty, of course. If you look at Counter Logic Gaming's composition, you've got Olaf, who's immune to crowd control, Stixley with a Quicksilver Sash, who can drop off crowd control. Afro should always be in the back, and Hui and Darshan are honestly probably just too tanky. G2 have the right champions for it, but there's not the right targets for it, and it makes it kind of difficult to find that opening. Smithy trading blows with Mithy. Doesn't quite find too much damage. Trick battles back and forth, but look at that. CLG, once again, holding vision control on this side of the jungle. He eats up all the traps, and the rest of Counter Logic Gaming shoved down the mid lane. Kind of face taking a bit too much there, than a half HP, maybe about a 4 that he can chew. Has the Guardian Angel, gets rooted, might run out of HP, he's got to be careful! And that's the revive forced down, so here come the teleports, here comes the team fight. Stixley jotting away pretty nicely, Darshan joins the fray, and how much damage can they really find? Trick is low, Hui looks at the chase line to expect, and there's the flash out from Trick himself. Hui has the empowered heal available, puts some damage on Amithy, a nice stun comes out from Perks, a little bit. Snipe's gonna come through, nearly kills him, Smithy, the Olaf close to dead. Block of shield comes out, doesn't block any damage though. It's a late trigger from Afromu, and it means Counter Logic Gaming have to recall losing a Guardian Angel. Ooh, Smithy takes a heal from Afro, gets away.
See, that's the opening they're looking for, right? Openings like that, and they do gain something out of it. Taking down the GA off of Smithy, popping the ultimate, they bought themselves a little bit of time. No kills though, so there's not really any extra gold, and next time around, I don't know. It looks rough for your boys there, Dishio.
Definitely does. I mean, full credit to CLG. They've just outplayed G2 in the early to mid game. Smithy was on fire this game, and also good shot calling, setting up the plays we highlighted earlier. That was close to the best fight G2 could hope for. Don't pick up a single kill because of the tankiness of CLG. Now Darshan picked up the GA, so if you remove it from Smithy, he just takes it himself, and now you have to do the same thing again.
And remember, if CLG are able to take this game, it has huge implications for this group. One of the reasons why we're so sure that this is going to be one of the games that does decide that #2 seed is because Rocks are so heavily favored to get out in first place, and Albus Nox Luna are pretty heavily supplanted in that 4th spot. So CLG, breaking the analysts' predictions here would be a very big upset.
In front of the home crowd, no less. CLG wearing their American flag colors and their uniforms. The crowd here in San Francisco, you heard their cheers every time we announced the North American team during the opening ceremony. They would love nothing better than for CLG to strike the first win of the League of Legends World Championship here this year. And as the gold lead remains 6,500, they are poised to do so with Baron buff respawn.
We got 3 items now on G2. If we look at both Perks and Expect, 2 solo laners for them, this might be the best time to just try and fight. If CLG goes for a risky Baron and maybe fails the execution, that could be a way in for G2. But we saw CLG, last time Baron was alive, set it up perfectly and never really gave G2 a chance.
So many tools. When you're on red side and the blue team has to come through these small corridors, CLG looking to chase him down.
Flash to get away from the bubble. Tidewave's going to tag onto one, forcing the flash into the G2 AD carry. Trick is on the flank. Mithy going to get burned down. That's the first kill. Hui is engaged deep into the back line. Mithy wearing off all the damage. Darshan, who is he going to punt out? Looks like he's going to wait for it and let it go back on a cooldown. Not too much picked up just yet, but that is still G2 missing their support. 5v4 for Counter Logic Gaming. Mountain Drake means they kill the turrets faster, and here comes the siege. Maybe the game-winning push right now, 32.5 minutes in. There's the inhibitor turret. The inhibitor itself now available as Darshan kites back and forth. Smithy getting a bit low. The opening on an Afromu. This could be some very crucial snipes by Sven. Misses one, tags another, and who is he going to get for this one? Looks for the final shot, and it's going to be the revive out for Darshan. He'll come back up soon. Stixley a bit low. He's got to be careful.
careful. A big stun. There's the root as well. Do they have the damage? G2 right now do not, but Counter Logic Gaming has to run away for dear life. The revives are in. Mithy's back on the map, and Counter Logic Gaming
he's
needs
back
to get
at
away.
base.
He's coming up to the left-hand side. Let's see if he can find anything.
Too far away.
Do. It seems very unlikely as CLG are going to continue to run away. The Ocean and Cloud Drake helping them get away and keep their health bars, something that won't get them killed. But G2 now control the map a little bit more. CLG want back in though. They've got to slow on his Sven. Not going to be a stun just yet here from the mid laner. Back again onto Mithy. His exhaust going to be up and he's going to find a target. Mithy wearing down and it's 2 kills for Counter Logic Gaming. Expect re-engages, cannot find Darshan, and that's 4 already. Perk's the last one alive. There's the stun. He's going to take him down. The ace for Counter Logic Gaming as they run down the mid lane to win the first game of the World Championship.
CLG alone in the enemy base, running towards the Nexus, the opening game of Worlds.
14-4 in kills, 7-3 in turrets. Despite the first blood, Counter Logic Gaming won the way that CLG wins. Control, strategy, shot calling, and teamwork leads North America to a 1-0 record at Worlds.